We're interrupting with some breaking news. A political newcomer has pulled off a huge upset in New York's 14th District Democratic primary. The Associated Press reports that first-time candidate Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has beaten Democratic incumbent Joe Crowley. CBS News political correspondent Ed O'Keefe is on the phone with us now. Hi, Ed. If you will, put into perspective for us just how big of an upset this is.
So does everyone remember back when Eric Cantor lost his primary bid in 2014, the summer of 2014? This is that. This is somebody who was poised to become Speaker of the House one day, failing to shore up the fundamentals back home and losing in an incredible upset. 56-year-old Joe Crowley has served in Congress since 1998. He is the boss of the Queens Democratic Party. He has lost tonight to a 28-year-old who about 9 months ago was running her upstart congressional campaign while working as a waitress in New York City. She is somebody that was so off the grid, the New York Times, the local paper, hadn't even written about her.
Right.
And tonight she has defeated a man who is arguably was, at least until tonight, a leader in waiting for the Democratic Party. Right now he's head of what's called the House Democratic Caucus, which essentially makes you in charge of knowing everything about all your fellow Democrats. And you're responsible for working on the message, and you're responsible for helping recruit new candidates. Well, clearly, he was more concerned with that, it seems, and was losing touch with his district. And what this signals, Tanya, is that, you know, perhaps, we don't want to call a trend on one race, but this could signal that, you know, you're going to see other Democratic incumbents in different parts of the country lose to similarly young, first-time, and far more liberal opponents in primaries of all sorts this year.
And as you put it, she was off the grid, but she managed to use her off-the-grid status to her advantage. I mean, she really, I have to say, for a first-time candidate, ran a brilliant campaign. I mean, her video went viral as soon as it went out, and I think that she seemed to resonate, at least among the voters of her district, who felt perhaps that Crowley just wasn't spending enough time there in the district.
Yeah, and I think, and frankly, Tanya, to your credit, to CBSN's credit, I think we're one of the few television news outlets of a national scope who spent time with her.
We had her here on CBSN, and frankly, everyone thought, you know, it's an interesting story because she's making some waves, but really nobody thought that she could unseat Joe Crowley. I mean, he had all the endorsements. He had the union endorsements. He had the business, local business endorsements. Everybody was seemingly endorsing him. So it was an interesting story, but nobody thought she would win.
No, not at all. And you know, it's telling that somebody like him, who, again, people who paid even remote attention to the future of the Democratic Party know that Joe Crowley was somebody who eagerly was waiting in the wings for the eventual departure of Nancy Pelosi. Under some circumstances later this year, even if Democrats retake control of the House, she might not have enough vote to stay on as Speaker. And Crowley was known to be sort of preparing and waiting in the wings in the event that happened. But look, you know, he's a 56-year-old Irishman from New York, from a part of Queens in an era in New York politics that is quickly disappearing. To be defeated tonight by a 28-year-old Latina, who represents the descendant parts of Bronx and Queens.
Right, exactly. You could argue the demographics for that region have changed quite dramatically just in the 14 years since he's held that seat. And, you know, she did distribute her campaign materials in 3 or 4 different languages, including Korean, Spanish, English. You know, I mean, she really made a point at driving the message of diversity through.
Yeah, and it speaks to not only the demographic diversity of that part of New York City, again, part of Bronx and Queens, but the fact that so many younger voters, you know, let's put it this way, you know, those that consider themselves woke, frankly, you know, can only really afford to live in those parts of the city at this point. And so they're looking for people like her who are standing up to the establishment, and who, frankly, I think in this case probably did feel a great disconnect from Crowley, who I know over the past year especially has spent far more time on the road trying to shore up fellow incumbents and recruit new candidates.
Right.
And in this case, it seems wasn't paying enough attention to what was going on back home.
I guess it's a lesson that a lot of politicians in Washington should take to heart.
Absolutely.
All right, Ed, thank you so much for that. We're going to take a quick break now. Much more news ahead. You're streaming CBSN.